In my Debug Basics video, I mentioned how Debug Visible does a bunch of different things, and one of the main things it does is give access to the scene loader in the main menu, which is a list of maps that are on file in quarantine, giving us a glimpse into what Icepick Lodge has done work on at the time of quarantine's release. Like I mentioned in my other videos, most of these don't work and will softlock us in the loading screen if we try. The ones that do work are ones that are used in the demo in one way or another. But these are not the exact maps that we see in the game. These are specifically for testing and debug purposes, and as such have certain quirks and assets that we don't see otherwise. Whenever we load up one of these debug maps, we always start with our health and psyche at 0. The low health gives us this annoying red low health filter. There's a few ways we can fix that. The easiest is by turning on God mode, which we can do by typing player parameter immortal true in the console. As for our psyche, it will slowly go down into apathy, just like in the regular game, which is kinda annoying and will slow us down when we forget about it. And the easiest way to deal with that is by turning it off, which we can do with player parameter metabolism available false. We also always start with the clock at midnight, and you may be asking, wait, but it's clearly daytime, and that's because we're in a particular state of the game where the day is not set, and so the day and night cycle is turned off. This happens whenever we load up a debug scene immediately after booting up the game, or when we load up these maps after finishing a playthrough. In this state, the day and night cycle is turned off and locked to daytime. If instead we wanted to explore and play with the day and night cycle, we have to start or load a playthrough of Quarantine, quit back into the main menu, and then load a debug map from the scene loader. And now, the day-night cycle works properly, and the top right corner will show the day of whatever the game thinks the day is, including the capital, which I guess the game treats as being one of the days. So these maps are listed in alphabetical order, with a lot of them having multiple versions of themselves. But first, let's at least cross out all the ones we know don't work. How do I know which ones don't work? Because I tried them all. I've tried every single one of them. The Broken Heart is just not in quarantine, you guys, I'm sorry. The first one playable on our list are the Bottomtown Crossroads. And there are also the Middletown and Uptown Crossroads. And these maps are weird. They don't have any collision or any assets except for the ground, which we immediately fall through. So if we want to explore, we have to go into the camera fly. The lighting in this area is also very strange. Most everything that we load in here has a Silver Surfer effect on them. And the day-night cycle does not function, regardless of whether or not we set the day. Bottomtown Crossroads has 4 different versions for some reason, despite being the exact same map. The only difference I found is the spawn locations for the NPC spawners. Same thing with the 2 Uptown Crossroads. Middletown Crossroads is a little funny. The district that has the most fidelity on this map is the Backbone, the district with the Capitol building in it, which is a district that we never go to in quarantine. Another thing that's weird is that, unlike other maps where we can see a clear divot in the ground where the jail underneath the Capitol building would be, this map does not have that. It's just flat ground. There's nothing underneath it either. I don't know what these maps are for. It's possible that other maps in the game reference these in some way, but there's not much we can do here. Yeah, I have no idea. Nor do I know why there's 4 of the exact same map. And people have complained that Quarantine is the size of Pathologic 2.5. House Vasily is Filat's house. In fact, Filat's file name is Vasily NPC. Likely this was Filat's name in development and only changed at one point or another for whatever reason. In this debug version of the map, we can open all the doors that are usually locked, giving us access to the unused portions of the house. The only spawn point for NPCs seems to be this one corner in this one room. The exit door functions properly and loads us into the debug Skinner's map. Institute Hall is the Capitol Academy Rotunda map. Like I mentioned in my debug playthrough, the child NPC is still out here and is the only NPC that is automatically spawned in when we load any of these debug maps. In this version of the map, we can open almost all the doors, which doesn't get us far. except for this door, which leads to the Thanatica map for some reason, and this door in the basement, which loads up the interrogation room, for which the staircase leading to it is not blocked this time. Institute interrogation is next, and there's nothing special here. Dave is not here, the door doesn't work, and if we sit down in a chair, we get soft locked. I like this map because it's the smallest, which is useful for when you're testing the NPC spawner. Zhilniki is next, and this is the Hindquarters district. This is the district we go through in quarantine that's infected. Most of the districts have multiple versions of themselves. One for the regular version, one for the infected version, and one for the burnt bandit version, which the debug calls blocked. For Zhilniki, that blocked version is not in the game files, and so doesn't work. But the regular and the diseased version do load up fine, and we can explore those. A notable difference between the regular version and the diseased version is that East doors and Ruben's homes are not blocked by debris, so we can come up to them and interact with them, which predictably stalls in a loading screen and plays their respective theme music. Some of these district maps have a very funny debug feature. During the Days None name state, if we press O on our keyboard at any time, the game spawns in all the bandits for the area, with functioning AI, loot tables, and everything. This works on all versions of the Hindquarters, Skinners, and Guts maps, giving us a sneak peek into bandit starting positions and a few items that we don't see in quarantine. Discovering this was a bit of a trip that came with a bunch of jump scares, because this hotkey works even if we're in the pause menu or in the console. So anytime I type in metabolism or immortal, they just jump me. I thought I had a weird setting on, or I tapped in a weird console command. But no, you just press O. Kozveni? Kozaveni? Kozhaveni? How do you pronounce this? Kajevini is next, and this is the Skinner's map. The only one that we have working files for is the regular version, which we see in our regular quarantine playthrough. The only difference I noticed in this debug version is that Peter's house is unlocked and stalls our game when we try and open it, and does that thing where they play the theme music. And as I mentioned 5 seconds ago, we can spawn in the bandits here. Next we have Most Slow Eva region, regular and diseased. Most here is the Russian word most, meaning bridge, as in the bridge square. And these are obviously the Stillwater district area. The funny quirk with these debug maps is that the hitbox for the Molotovs in the quarantine mob sequence is turned on permanently, just without any visuals. So when you're standing in front of the Stillwater door, you just mysteriously get hurt over and over again. The door to Stillwater does function properly and does load us into the interior, but as we know, there are two versions of the indoor Stillwater, one for days 1 through 3 and one for days 4 through 6. By default, this door will load the days 4 through 6 version. Like if the game is set to capital or days none name, it will load the days 4 through 6 version. If we wanted to load the days 1 through 3 version instead, we would have to set the day to 1, 2, or 3. It's a lot easier to just load up that version of the map manually instead. Serdiechnik is the heart region, and there's nothing too special about it. Despite being a district map, we cannot spawn bandits in here like we can in the other districts. Indoor Stillwater 1 through 3 is pretty neat. We see a little bit of it in game if we choose those days into Time Travel 2 at the end of the demo, and if we look down from Daniel's loft. But we don't have too much time to really explore it, even if we turn on Debug Move and jump off, because Eva interrupts us and boots us out into the main menu. But here, through the scene loader, we can explore unimpeded. In this version of Stillwater, all the furniture has a white cloth draped over everything, making it seem like Daniel and Eva only recently moved into here, and that the building has been mostly abandoned prior to their arrival. In Daniel's room, there's some furniture missing underneath the loft that we never see. One of the lamps is missing, and so the lighting is different at night. And this bird cage has been moved. The workstation on the first floor is non-interactable, but for whatever reason, the workstation upstairs does give us the prompts to interact with, but obviously still doesn't actually do anything. One of the furniture that's not covered in cloth is this clock, which is interactable and will soft lock us if we try to time travel using it. The days 4 through 6 Stillwater has a little bit more going on. The workstation on the ground floor does function as it does in the demo and still shows unavailable in demo when we try. There's a few more environmental objects here that are lootable that are not in the game proper, but there are no items in them. One last thing that's unique with the debug version of Stillwater is this armillary sphere on Daniel's desk, and appears to be a way for the player to skip forward in time. For the longest time I couldn't figure out how to get it to work, so I just assumed that it didn't. But it does, and can only skip forward in time, not backwards. And because there's numbers missing on this line, it's not that intuitive. But it works. I don't know if this will make an appearance in the full release, but it's clear that the devs were playing around with this as a functioning tool. It's really funny that the font for the UI clock on the screen is different, which indicates to me that this was a much earlier idea that they abandoned. But who knows, it might come back. In both versions of the debugged Stillwater maps, we can open this locked room and go inside it. And both maps seem to share the same NPC spawn points, which happens to be in this room. Steppe Train Inshore region, both regular and diseased, is of course the one map from the Shabnak sequence where we burn things to get to the train. The only difference between these two is that the diseased version has more bonfires. There's nothing too special about these maps, except for if we spawn in NPCs, they spawn in a single file line, out of bounds in the north section of the field, which you're probably going to want to install the no-fog mod just to be able to find them. This is an excellent area to play around with the NPC spawner. One funny bit of discovery here is that in the quarantine game proper, if we try to walk out of bounds on this map, we just get picked up and get killed by the Shabnak. There's a kill wall around the play area. But on these debug maps, that doesn't exist. We can just walk out into the field, no problem. And it's a little disorientating to do this when you don't have the no fog mod turned on. But if we walk north on this map, in the direction of the NPCs that spawn in, we can spot ourselves on the map screen. I talked a little bit about this in my Twitter and Blue Sky pages. The train tracks follow the map pretty well up until this bend here, at which point it curves slightly southward. And the drawing of the broken down trains is nowhere near the reality of how this area is set up. But this area is within its town map. The Thanatica map doesn't have much going on except that we can open all the locked doors. Kinda, sorta. Next are the theater maps, and we sadly don't have a working file for the days 1 through 3 theater, but the theater hospital works fine. A notable difference between this debug version and the proper game version is that one of the desks has an interactable workstation with a microscope. If there's a console command combination that lets us do stuff here, I have not found it yet. And the last playable debug map we have here is Utrova, which is the Guts map. The disease version isn't in quarantine obviously, and so doesn't work, but the regular and the blocked version do. I haven't found anything unique with the debug versions of the Burnt Guts map, but having access to the regular version is pretty neat. Here all the pesky barricades are removed, and Big Filat's house is interactable, and does that thing where it stalls our loading screen and plays music. And again, we can spawn in the bandits here. This video was way longer than I intended to be. There's still 1 or 2 more things I want to make videos about, but those should be a lot shorter and faster to put out. Thanks for watching and stuff.